So Dan Azeez scores a unanimous decision victory over Shakan Pitters to defend his British light heavyweight title. In case you haven't seen this fight, it's on Sky Sports' YouTube channel, so you can check it out. I've just finished watching it, and I think it's definitely a fight worth talking about. I saw that this fight was scheduled. I didn't do a pre-fight video, but I was keeping an eye on it. I wanted to see the result of this fight and watch it for myself, purely because I wanted to see how Dan Azeez would approach the fight. Because for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Shakan Pitters, he's a light heavyweight contender at British domestic level. So a light heavyweight, yes, but he measures in at 6'6". And, you know, there are some tall guys at light heavyweight, but 6'6" for a light heavyweight is pretty much unheard of. Dan Azeez, on the other hand, he's only 5'10". And so that's a massive deficit that he has to cover. And I was really interested to see how he would approach this fight and go about it. And to be fair, I think Azeez did really well. I had him winning this fight. My scorecard was 9 rounds to Azeez, 2 to Shakan Pitters, and then 1 round even. And even that even round, I'd be more swayed to give it to Dan Azeez. But yeah, I had Dan Azeez winning this fight relatively comfortably. However, that scorecard doesn't necessarily reflect how the fight went. It was a very competitive fight, a very spirited effort came from both men, and I'd certainly recommend this fight. There were no knockdowns in the fight. I don't really remember much of either man being hurt particularly badly, but it's a good quality competitive fight, I must say. Starting the fight off, I felt that Dan Azeez, speaking about that height disadvantage and that reach disadvantage, I think Azeez showed early on a near perfect way to address that disadvantage, because Azeez showed if you have a good ability to manage distance and maintain distance, and if you're able to slip off the center line, you have an active guard, as well as good shot selection that comes with it, you can be more than competitive at long range against someone who is massively taller than you. And I think if you're watching this video and you're getting into boxing, or you already established yourself in the sport and you're maybe on the shorter side, maybe you're shorter than average for your division, or you just find that you struggle with guys taller than you, watch this fight and watch Dan Azeez's approach and his technique, because it really was some very good quality technique, and it showed how he was almost with ease able to establish his way of fighting. He was either too far away from Shakan Pitters, out of punching range, or he was either too close, and he was able to just find the right pathways, usually under Pitters' jab, just to work his way on the inside and make his shorter, more compact shots count. However, Shakan Pitters, he, as I say, was competitive in this fight, and from early on he showed that he was able to almost time Dan Azeez in spots. At first it took him a couple of attempts, but as soon as he started getting the timing, he was able to get some offense off from Dan Azeez as Azeez was coming in. And this is despite Shakan Pitters being 6'6", as I say. For a man of that stature and the dimensions he has, he does shorten his shots up well, particularly on the inside, which it's always a very welcome skill to have. These guys, these taller guys, a lot of them, they can fall apart as soon as it gets to middle and close range, because they just invest all their practice in keeping it long, and they never learn to shorten their shots up and really have a tight trajectory and able to get the leverage up close. And now they may not necessarily be able to reach the effectiveness of a smaller fighter in those closer quarters, but it doesn't mean they can't practice and improve from where they start. And I think Pitters, he is a fighter that he practices throwing his shots at shorter ranges, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't consistent enough. I believe it was in the first or second round, Azeez actually clocked Pitters, so it must be the second round. It was in the early seconds of the second round. Pitters looked to try and line up a right uppercut as Azeez was coming in. However, I've spoken about this before, where you have to be careful with uppercuts because of the trajectory. It doesn't really allow you to come too far off the center line, so a lot of the time, even if you land that shot, you can end up finishing in a very upright position on the line. And that's what happened. Azeez was just able to clock Pitters with an overhand right as Pitters attempted that right uppercut. However, well, I must say that Pitters almost touched down. He was inches away from it being counted as a knockdown, and he wasn't that badly hurt. I felt that he was able to recover himself well. But Dan Azeez, he did try to take some of the initiative and go after it, but I think he realised that Pitters wasn't that hurt and didn't want to just really blow his load and empty the tank. And despite that early almost knockdown, it wasn't officially a knockdown, it was almost a knockdown. Pitters, I had winning this round because I felt that he started to get his own right uppercut counter off really well, and it was like the shot that Azeez hit him with early in the round. It woke him up a bit, and he realised he has to be a bit sharper with that uppercut if he's going to use it. And he showed a good ability, the Pitters this is, to basically land the uppercut, the right uppercut, and then make sure to keep the left hand up, and then start to turn back away from Azeez, anticipating that right hand follow up from Dan Azeez. And Pitters did that really well, and he showed he was able to start to take away that overhand right from Azeez. However, one adaptation which I feel like Pitters would have benefited from a lot, but he didn't use, was taking away the jab of Dan Azeez, because Azeez had a very good ability to kind of roll under or slip the jab of Pitters and then just go into a bit of a leaping left cross. So if he slipped to his left side, got his weight on the left leg, and he flies forward with his jab, that was just money for Dan Azeez throughout the entirety of the fight. And he didn't really have to mix up how he was setting that punch up, because Pitters just didn't have the ability to adapt to it. So as I say, it was just money. It was free. It was a free shot for Dan Azeez almost all night, and he was able to get it off with relative ease. And where he was able to do that, he was able to make this pathway to get in close and then get even more short shots. Dan Azeez, another money punch for him was the right uppercut up close, because he could just, even if he had his left arm tied up, he was just able to control Pitters with the shoulder a little bit, make a gap, and then just send that right uppercut. And that's really what won Dan Azeez the fight, is these shots, these 1-2 shots around that are just knocking back the head of Shakan Pitters, and the judges are going to see that it's going to stick in their heads and it's going to win him the round. So yeah, I had essentially 9-2 to Dan Azeez with 1 round even, as I say. And it was a more competitive fight than that scorecard would have you believe. But Shakan Pitters was just a step behind. He was just conceding those 1 or 2 eye-catching shots, and he by all means he made Dan Azeez work for this unanimous decision victory. But it was a very impressive performance by Azeez. Great composure. Came in a very, very nice kind of Marvin Hagler get up with the tall white socks and the, what would you call them, burgundy velvet shorts. Clearly, I think it's obvious. It was talking, the Adam Smith and Matthew Macklin were talking about how Dan Azeez, he looks up to Marvin Hagler as one of his favourite fighters, and you can see that obviously in the style, his ring clothing, his trunks and whatnot, but also in his movements. You can see this is someone who has studied Marvin Hagler, has watched a lot of Marvin Hagler and based a lot of his style on Hagler. And now obviously there are differences. Hagler was a middleweight, Dan Azeez is a light heavyweight. Marvin Hagler was a very good switch hitter, one of the best switch hitters you ever see. Dan Azeez, exclusively orthodox, but a lot of the movements are very Hagler-esque, and I don't think it's a cheap imitation. I think he does a good job of winning his fights stylistically. Dan Azeez is a very good fighter, and even in defeat, Shakan Pitters, I think, is another fighter who very talented and just has to tweak a few things. I don't think it's going to be he has to reinvent himself. I think both of these men, I'd be very surprised if they didn't reach European level, because I think they have the talent. I think they have the skill. Dan Azeez more so. I just think Shakan Pitters just needs maybe a bit more drilling, just so his technique is consistent throughout the course of a fight, because he's already got the natural advantages in height and in reach. He's quite well coordinated for a man of 6'6". Does seem to lack power. I think he's only got 6 knockouts in his career, but I think he punches harder than advertised. I'll say that. Same with Dan Azeez. He's 17-0 with 11 knockouts. I think he's got pretty decent power, but most of it comes from his very consistent and compact technique. With Dan Azeez as well, he's very well balanced, very composed, and that allows him to slip these shots and work his way in when he's up against a taller opponent. So I was impressed by both men. I have to say, I haven't really followed their careers too tough. I've only seen a couple of fights from both of them, but I'm interested to see where both guys go. I must say, there's obvious questions about where they go next. Dan Azeez, of course, being the winner, he's going to look to move on to bigger and better things. Talking about Anthony Yarde and Joshua Buatsi, the commentary said that those guys are probably a bit of a step too far right now for Dan Azeez, and I certainly have to agree. I think out of those two fights, the more winnable one would probably, in my opinion, be Joshua Buatsi, just because I think Dan Azeez's style, I think it would be an easier, quote unquote, fight for Anthony Yarde from a stylistic point of view. I think Yarde is just a bit too powerful, a bit too dynamic and athletic. One thing I must say though is I've just put quite a bit of praise on Dan Azeez and Shakan Pitters, and I guess you could say touting them for at least European level achievements. Both guys are 33, which is strange because they look young. They look like they're 23, but they're not. These guys are 33 years old. Yeah, I don't know. Time isn't on their side by any stretch, but achieve what you can while you can. These guys go onwards and upwards. I'd like to see Dan Azeez carry on because, to be fair, he's accumulating quite the resume. And yeah, he's only fighting at domestic level, but I don't know. He's starting to clean up a little bit, at least Southern area, English level, British level now. It's he's on some good form, I must say. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this fight. Dan Azeez scoring a unanimous decision victory over Shakan Pitters. Have you seen the fight? If so, what did you think of it? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree? And where would you like to see both guys go next? Leave it down below in the comment section. I'll get back to you. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.